Hey class, today we're going to do our first lesson and we're going to be talking about exposure, but we're going to be doing it out in the world. And during this, I'll give you some types of pictures I want you to take this week while you're interacting with this new world we live in now. So let's get out of the house first. If you see my dirty house, don't make me go to this, please. So I really want you to think about using photography as a way of getting out, getting some time for yourself. Take your kids along, but interact with the world, even if we can't interact with each other as much. Don't let that stop you from interacting with the world. And so I want you to go to your normal, outside your normal place. It can be in your backyard, it can be inside your house, but I want you to start looking for things different. You know, what are the things you always look at that you've never really looked at because you always see? And as you're walking and we're doing this photo walk, I want you to, you know, try to pay more attention to the things around you that seem a little different, but you never really paid much attention to photographically. So the first thing that caught my eye were my neighbor's flags, if you can see there. And with the blossoms on the tree that are coming in, the color in the sky that's starting to really be, you know, that's the first thing that I see that I'm like, I want to photograph this. So I'm just gonna check it out. Be ready with my camera and kind of frame up, look at what I'm looking at and frame up what I see. And then with my phone or my camera, take a picture and just take one. We're just interacting and kind of warming up to photograph more. And you know, some of the terms we're going to go over today are overexposure, underexposure, proper exposure, how to adjust that using our three variables. We have, of course, aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. And I'm going to start showing you some of the differences those make visually in our pictures. Now, some of the things to look out for that I want you to photograph this week is, first of all, I'd like you, as you interact in the world, you might have to end up doing some shopping, or you might go to some retail space or some kind of thing that's been transformed by this current situation that we're in. I'll be uploading my examples with the lectures so that you get an idea of what I might mean. My wife is walking backwards right now, frantically trying to film me, so I have to give her credit and kudos for helping me with this venture. It's a totally new world, and we're making the best we can of it as we go through it. So I'll be back in 1 second when I line up the first shot, so I'll talk to you more in a second. Hey class, I found the first thing that visually caught my interest, and if you look over here, you'll see the scene of this kind of cement pillar that holds the light coming up out of all these flowers that are growing around it. Really gives this nice kind of line of framing with this big kind of blocky industrial-like form coming out of the natural landscape. Now, some of the concerns visually as I look at it, some of the concerns, if you'll come around here for me, some of the concerns is look at the background here. Look at all the cars, all the vertical lines, all the trees. That background right away I know is pretty visually distracting to what I want to photograph here. So my first thought is aperture, right? Remember, aperture is the size opening that we create for light to go through to strike our sensor. And our aperture controls depth of field. And so I want to blur out using my depth of field. I want to blur out that background. So I want to shoot with a really open aperture. So what's going to happen is, remember, bigger openings give us more light. And so we're not going to have trouble with light here. So we're going to have to make sure our ISO stays low, and we're probably going to have a relatively fast shutter speed. So let's frame it up. I'm going to shoot it vertically, I think. And I'm probably going to have to sit on my butt for this one. Not get my foot in it. All right. Now visually, I'm wondering if I want to have curb in the front, or if I want to just have land. Oh, I think just land. But that does make the visual of the background a little more distracting. So I'm going to shoot this right now. It's at, if I read you my settings here for this shot, it says I'm too underexposed. So let's see if we can get this with my camera here. Can you see those numbers?
No, I'm just getting your reflection.
No, yeah, how? Let me see if I can. This is the hard part. So the numbers, you can see 1/250th, f-stop 13. It's a -2 plus it's blinking, which means I'm at least 2 stops underexposed, and I'm ISO 200. So I'm going to make some adjustments to this. I know I want to open up my aperture, so the number's going to go down, and I'm going to increase light. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. So my aperture control on this camera is right here. So I'm going to start taking my aperture. Oop, going the wrong way. I really want to put it around 5, I think, for the shot. So I'm frame it back up. Now I'm 0.7 over, and my background is pretty blown out. So let's see if we can do something to kind of control that. So I'm at +1 right here. It's at 1/250th of a second, f5. I'm +1 overexposed and ISO 200. So I'm actually going to take this one as my first shot, just to kind of be a reference. And so if I come over here, let's try to get this here. Definitely gonna have to work out all the ways of doing this best, but that's the first kind of shot right there. There's the unavoidable glare. So that's the first shot, and you can see that the sky right here is pretty overblown. I'm not sure that that's a bad thing at this point. So I'm going to just shoot what's called bracketing now. So what I'm going to do is this was a +1. I'm going to shoot one at actually a +2 and one at 0. And then I'm going to have those 3 files to choose from for my final image. Now, I can do that either by manipulating the numbers myself or using what you would have control of on your app, which is exposure compensation. And it'll be noted by, and there'll be some links with the lesson that will help you see what the icon looks like, but it's a plus and minus sign in a square typically. And plus will give you overexposure, minus will give you underexposure. And on your apps on your phone, those are often the best brightness control you have with using your phone. So look for that if you're using the Visco app. Look for that if you're using any other apps or the Samsung Pro mode. Now, let me frame up this shot again and bracket it now for exposure. So I'm gonna end up making one really overexposed. This one, the sky seems overexposed, but I like where the cement pillar and the flowers are in the exposure. So the sky might stay that way, and in post editing, I can control that brightness. So I'm gonna make one that's was a +1. I'm gonna make a +2, and I'm gonna make a 0. So let me frame this up again. And so currently I'm still at that. That one is my +1, so there. This will be my 0. And let me go here. For my one, that will be +2. Alright. So let's take a look here if we can come into the shade with me here. Maybe we can get a little better shot. And then also let me check my trying to see if I can adjust the monitor brightness temporarily so that I can see it better for this purpose. No, there we go. Let's see. Well, I put it on auto display levels, so maybe that will improve it some. So let's take a look here. We can. So, see if you can see that any better. Can you see that? That's pretty good. Okay. So that is the +2. The sky is completely blown out, and I'm actually really liking that one. Can you see it okay? If we go to the other ones, you can start seeing here, this is the +1. You can start seeing trees that are kind of blown out in the +2. And so I'm really digging that last one the most. Let me look. Tough call. If I choose that one, I'm going to have to straighten it because that line right there drives me a little nutty. But I definitely can work with it. That one, I like the little more centered kind of look. I'll probably edit both of those and pick after the edit. But I'm leaning towards that one right there. So, now, this shot, since I took care of really the busy background with my angle and with my exposure, I don't really have to worry about my aperture as much. I used light and the angle of the background that's seen to kind of act as the effect that gets rid of the background. So I'll be posting this post edit onto the thread so you guys can see the final product. Now, that was the first thing that captured my eye. Now I'm gonna walk around some and see what else there is around here to photograph. Now, this is a place where I walk by all the time, constantly. I've seen these things dozens and dozens of times. And if we look over here, I'll tell you that some of the things that tends to pick up my interest visually is when I see the red curbs. Those always grab me, right? And then I see these blue, handicap, signs to the parking spots there. And so that blue-red already is creating a color composition. It's not as much about the subjects that you photograph. It's really about how those subjects speak to people. And these empty parking lots right now speak to people. I mean, this is one of our new realities. Is I couldn't believe at Target earlier, I look around and it's a tenth of the cars that I ever normally see in that shopping center. And then I sit there and take away the ones that are workers in there, and it's kind of bizarre. And so for me to cope with some of these weird changes, it's best to kind of photograph them. I, in some way, start building an understanding of them, or at least a relationship to them in some way that counteracts some of the feedback it gives me about how things are going wrong. So I don't normally get to see this view right here, and love how these trees kind of direct my attention also towards the two handicap signs. And if we take a broader look, can you see the North Park sign there?
Mm-hmm.
And the blue there? I mean, if we were to get more panoramic, we can even see how that could be improved as a composition also. So keep your eyes kind of immersed in your world a little. As we walk by here, I'm taking, at first what grabbed me was that cement pillar going up through the ground, out of this natural scene. But then it's interesting to me to see how these overwhelming kind of bushes give way to the trees visually too. I like what light's doing right here. This becomes really visually interesting. You see how the shadow, you can use the shadow to play also. Try different angles. There's beautiful things everywhere. Now, one of the reasons I walk by here so much is, although you can't see it, that stop sign is actually a Pokemon gym. And we battle people frequently in that Pokemon gym, so don't take our Pokemon gym. I'll have to boot you out of it. That's my coin factory. So, we're now getting to the road. I'm gonna start walking another direction and I'll come back with another shot in a second. All right, I found my next shot. Look at this. Look at these blue pallets here. Man, that's gorgeous. And look at the red stack right there with the red stripes on the pole. So industrial fence over here, kind of, for all the trash cans. So this is definitely my next picture, and I like this already. Now, there's not going to be a lot of issues as far as depth of field goes here, because look at the shallow space that we're dealing with anyway. We don't need to worry about aperture. We do need to have some concern for shutter speed just to make sure we have a clear shot that's not blurry, but we've got plenty of light still, so shutter speed's not going to be an issue either. It's one of those shots that on auto will be taken very well. So, I'm really interested in what the color's doing most of all in this particular picture. So, and again, another weird thing, because usually show a look of this here. This whole area is usually got either trucks or people working or cars parked all through here. So I don't ever really get to see this view either, so that's really interesting. So when I find scenes like this, I tackle them with lots of different shots. So I'm going to take shots of the overall. I'm going to go in and take shots of just those three with that gap for the security camera. Those are catching my eyes. I'm going to do a close-up of just the blue. I'm going to do a close-up of the blue against the red. So I got a lot of shots coming off in my head when I see this scene. Take all the shots you can. Use this as, get immersed in it. Let this be a meditation in a way, a visual meditation of the world. So just watch as I do these shots, because you're gonna see how you should go about working what we call working the scene. So when you find a thing that you want to shoot, get on it as quick as possible. Look for all the shots that you can get that are valuable to you, and then pick the best ones. So I'm noticing here that my light's got some clouds. This is something to pay attention to. You don't have to shoot directly into that, but just kind of glimpse it. The clouds might cover up my sun, so my light time might be a little hectic right now, so I need to get shooting. So first thing I'm gonna do is the red and blue, find my angle. I'm using the zoom on my lens, which goes from 24 to 70. We'll be talking more about lenses in another episode of this class, but this lens is more telephoto that way, more wide angle that way, and right there is about how our eyes normally see. So I'm going to be shooting this wider and then moving it closer as I need. Line myself up for the first shot, grab it, change a little my perspective, get the shot. Now I'm going to come over here and get these separately. I'm going to shoot this one vertically. It's almost like buildings in a weird way. Now I think some of the more interesting shots too, there's some water here that's making some reflections I want to work with. I want to come here with the red. Try to balance my shot, use the colors to feel the sense of balance. There's going to be more blue than there is red. Red's a really heavy kind of color. It needs more other colors to weight it off, to balance it some. I'm going to try this horizontally also. Oh, I like that shot a lot. When I like something, I try it at different angles, even if it's a slight difference, and at different ranges on my lens. I'm going to get a blue shot, all blue this way. And here I might get some interesting effects from some depth of field, because I am shooting a wide open aperture right now. So I actually might get some interesting play on this particular shot. And then the closer, one of the things about aperture is the closer you get your focal point, the more it's going to drop. Oh, this is gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Let me show you this one. See if we can get a look at that. Can you see? Oh. Can you see that? See how it's dropping off right there already? So this is the one I'm definitely liking. Let me try that same kind of idea right here with the red kind of fading out. Try not to be my own shadow here. Hide my shadow as much as possible. Perfect. So I'm focusing right here, and that's causing this to really drop out of focus with my aperture. Because there's three things that really affect the aperture. It's not just our aperture, that affects it the most. It's also how telephoto our lens is. The more telephoto it is, the more it's going to drop off the background, drop it out. And then the closer we are to where we are physically actually focusing, that will drop off our background more too. So we'll get shallower depth of field with those three situations. Now I'm even thinking about these spaces are becoming visually interesting too. The more I explore the use of aperture here. So now I wanted to use these puddles some. My light's starting to dwindle some behind the clouds. It is giving me a nice even light though. Now let me. Sometimes you get dirty doing photography. There we go. Oh, a little too close. A little too close still. And watch me do the inchworm. There we go. That's it. That's it. Right there. Right there. I'm gonna bracket this one like I did the other one earlier. Get a brighter one. Get one that's toned down. Excellent. So sometimes it's the angles that get us a little messy that really make the great shots. You'll have to see when you look at the shots from this. So now I'm gonna look for our third and last shot for this class and check you out in a few minutes. Right. It didn't take me long to find another thing I wanted to take a picture of. Sometimes it happens fast, sometimes not so fast. Now, go ahead and show them what caught my eye first. It was this stuff at the trash can. I'm not sure if that's pandemic related or not, but speaks to me differently than it might if it was just normal times. You know, our visual vocabulary that we interpret, remember I told you it runs through all of the things that happen to us. So it's as unique to us as anything is. But we also, as a collective, share some commonalities because of these big things, you know. 9/11 definitely changed our group conscience and the group visual vocabulary that we use. And then seeing a building fall was a totally different experience after 9/11 than it might have been if you just saw demolition before that, like those big casinos that used to blow up in Las Vegas when they were done with them. So, you know, things shift our visual world. Things shift the way that we interpret things, and that's okay. That's the continual dialogue that this little device allows us to have with our world. And to me, it's a healing thing. To me, it's a meditative thing. It's become that in my life. And even if I never showed my pictures to anybody, it's a conversation I have with myself. And that's it's one that I value more than most interactions I have that are nurturing to me. So I'm looking at this and it's visually interesting, especially with the blue of this trash can and the beigeish golden colors of this wood here against the more kind of nondescript trash can right here. It's nice how I like symmetry. So I like how it's split up by the trash cans in some symmetrical way, but then all the chaos of the objects in front are kind of speaking to me differently. So another shot that's gonna work really well on auto, the tree and the words on the building behind are a little problematic to me. I can solve most of the words with this, just doing this right here. So you'll notice I've gotten down a lot today, and I tend to get down a lot. It's a unique perspective that strips away kind of a lot of the common language we see at our normal height. So this visually solves a big problem that I had. And if I shift over here, I get rid of the little green 4 or FO that I saw right there. So this is where I'm gonna start framing here. And I'm just shooting on aperture priority, choosing my aperture. And for this particular shot, my aperture is going to be pretty shallow. I'm going to shoot it at about 8. And that's going to give me plenty of light. Let me move it to 8 right here. Excellent. I like the way the framing looks. The background of the building actually starts looking like a house on the trash can. That's bizarre. So I'm going to take a shot, take a little brighter one. I'm going to go down and take a different angle. I want you to notice the visual difference. I'll post both so you can see how it changes the way we interpret our scene visually. And where if I took it straight on, I'll load that one also so you can see the difference, because it makes quite a difference. And now bonus shot, because anytime you're photographing out in the world and something catches your attention, I think it was Jay Mizell is a photographer who said this. I was in a workshop of his, and it was one of those things. I've been a photographer. I was already in my 40s, been a photographer for a long time. But he had this piece of advice that spoke to me as if I was a beginner again, and kind of just blew my mind. He said, anytime you're out in the world photographing and you find a shot, you should turn around and look at what's behind you, because we have a tendency to concentrate so much on the visual shot we're trying to get that we tune out basically the rest of the world. And that's one of the meditative aspects of it for me, but it also can make me blind to some really great photographs. Because if I look over here and I come and see, I've got these, right on the other side of this is a gym kind of training, personal trainer thing. And so if I come here, I see these discarded broken weights, and then this rust colored kind of puddle right here, and it's got a piece of trash in it and a leaf, which kind of in its own is making a really interesting composition. And I got this bucket over here. It looks like maybe some of the desk didn't quite get to the trash can. Or maybe it's another discarded piece of furniture. God, we are filthy animals, aren't we? So looking at this, I'm thinking I'm really most intrigued with that broken weight and the rust colored puddle, and I like them together. Now, big issue with this shot is shadow, because if I line it up the first way I'm inclined to think to line it up, I'm in it. I'm my shadow from very bright sun now. Our sun has gotten what we would call much harsher and harder in the time that we've been filming this. I need my sunglasses at this point. So I'm in it, and I don't want to be. So I gotta look for kind of where can I build the visual quality I'm looking for. Now I'm reading the no parking, right? And I'm thinking, wow, that no parking with the weights, that's kind of a weird juxtaposition of things. I'm gonna just line that up and see kind of visually what I think of it. I find it interesting, but to really know those are weights takes some a little more visual acuity to it than I'm getting in this shot. So, how much do we mess around with scene, right? It's interesting doing this kind of format because I like how I'm running into issues all around that I get to talk to you about. That's pretty cool. So one of the things as a photographer when we do work out in the environment is how much license do we have to change the scene that we're photographing, right? It's an ethical question when we talk about our photography. Now, I've been kind of all over the map at different times in my life. And I've been an ethical purist with it where, no, do not move anything. Your altering of the scene is disingenuous or dishonest. And then I've been like, nah, do whatever you want. It's your photograph. It's your photograph, so do what you need. And now I'm somewhere in the middle. It's really the shot and other ethics of people that might be concerned sometimes that answers that question shot to shot for me. So here, my issue is, can I tell these are weights? And the answer is not at the angle I want to take it. I can't tell that they're weights. So I will take the license to try something like this, to visually change how these weights are stacked so that I can get a visual idea that's a little better than I had. So now, see, a couple of visually nice things have happened here. With that circular form now showing up, it's much more readable as a weight, but also that circle is a nice contrast shape-wise to everything else going on. And I'm gonna frame, if you'll come over here, Les, I'm gonna frame the no parking. And if you look at the O there, that's our other circular form with the G, and then we have a G that's actually on the front of that particular weight. And these are the way our mind starts putting things together. That gives uniformity to our actual composition. And it gives a nice visual rhythm of circular form that goes through our space. So I'm liking that adjustment a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and frame that up the way I want. I need more depth of field because I want focus all the way through this. So I'm gonna turn my aperture to f16, which is gonna cut out some of this really bright light now too, thankfully. There we go. Now this one I'm definitely gonna wanna bracket. What I mean is make a brighter one and a dimmer one, because I wanna really make it for that circular form in the background. I wanna see that completely. I'm gonna try some up more to see the water better. And I'm gonna be doing some unusual angles with that. Ones I don't typically shoot at, but I'm gonna try particularly. So that's a third shot, and that's me going out into this world and kind of making some more visual sense of it for me. I'm going to be uploading some tips and help on using your phone to do some of this. And also, you know, I'm going to list what I want you to post in the discussions. There'll be some places for you to post pictures, which will be for part of your points for the discussion. So look for that on Canvas. And don't forget, my office hours are going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10:30 to 12. So you can hit my personal Zoom number that's listed already and just join me there and ask questions. All right? Have fun photographing. Use it to help keep you sane in this kind of world that's going on right now. And I'll talk to you soon.